Okay, welcome to another live sculpting session. This one might be a shorter session, but I'll probably do another one maybe a little bit later. Continuing the work on this Samson sculpture. Let's see, grab some more. And I'm using this sculpting wax that is pretty fun to work with, and I'll be doing a more detailed video about its properties and kind of step-by-step how I've gone through and sculpted this. And that'll be coming out in the next couple weeks. So be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell if you'd like to be notified about this type of sculpting related content. Yeah, I think I'm just going to be working on the details. If you have questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll just kind of be listening to other stuff, listening to something on my phone, podcast or something. But I will pause if there are any questions. So, okay. And I was looking and seeing that there's probably some areas I want to work out, especially in this armpit area. I felt like there was some things that needed to be moved around or added. Somebody's asking what, let's see, sorry, I just got here. What clay are you using and what's the hardness? This is a medium hardness sculpting wax, and it's actually a new product. It'll be coming out pretty soon, and this sculpture is part of a commission to kind of showcase the product. And so I'll be editing a video together about that. And if you're interested, subscribe and hit the notification bell. And once the product is available, I'll let you guys know. I think it's going to be March 3rd is the date that they think that they'll want to release the product, where you can get it on Amazon. And so if you're interested in that, if you'd like to try it out, then it'll be available then, and I'll have a video that kind of showcases it and shows my process of making this using this sculpting wax. So it's a fun product, nice to sculpt with. A little bit sticky, so it's a little different than some other types of clay, because it's just entirely different kinds of wax, so sticks to tools a little bit, but that's not, I mean, it hasn't been a huge issue, but I really like working with it by hand, sculpting by hand, and that's where I feel like it shines. morning from Brazil, somebody says. Good job, man. Thank you. Hello. What's the story? So the story behind this sculpture is it's Samson. Let me zoom out a little bit. So Samson, story from the Bible. He's basically a warrior that's promised. It's promised that as long as he doesn't cut his hair, shave his hair, then he'll basically have superhuman strength and nobody will be able to defeat him. And he's used as kind of this warrior to defend the Israelites. And so, but then because of betrayal and love interest from his enemies, he is tricked into revealing his secret, and then he's taken captive. They tie him up, gouge out his eyes, and then take him and kind of parade him in this large building with all of the enemies, parade him in front of the group, and then he feels the beams on either side, and he prays to God that he'll have one more bout of strength, that he'll be strong just for a little bit so that he can crush, or so that he can break these beams and bring the building down on top of himself and the opposing army, like 3,000 people. And so he's given that strength for a split second, and then his last act is basically pushing against the beams and bringing down the entire building on top of himself and the opposing army. So that's the story. Kings, I think it's in the Bible, Kings 16 is where that story is. And I thought it was a really, that it would make a good sculpture. That kind of final moment right before the beams start to give way, and he's calling to God to basically to give him the strength so that he can avenge, or so that he can have vengeance against the people that took out his eyes and warred against his people, the Israelites. So that's the story behind this sculpture. But it's Samson and Delilah. So he's the one that Delilah was the woman who betrayed him. It's kind of funny, the story, because Delilah's like, tell me what your weakness is, or how to take away your strength, and then he says something that's not true. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it's like, you have to bind me with these certain cords and then I won't have strength. And so then he wakes up the next morning and he's bound with the cords that he told Delilah about. But instead of like breaking up and saying, I don't think this is going to work out, he stays with her, and then she's like, why are you mocking me? Just tell me what your weakness is. And it goes through like several times where he tells her something that's not actually his weakness, and then that same thing happens to him, because she just goes right to the enemies. What is it? The Philistines, I think it was, and tells them like, this is his weakness. But he doesn't learn his lesson, and then eventually I think he just gets tired of everything, and then tells her the truth, and then wakes up. Or then it says she puts him to sleep on her lap, and then brings in some people to cut his hair, and they cut his hair, and then capture him and gouge out his eyes. And so it's a dramatic, pretty intense story, which a lot of the stories in the Bible are. Especially the Old Testament, it has quite a few dramatic, intense things that were like, oh wow, that's intense. That is a Somebody says, nice to see a Bible story in any form. Yeah, it's, well, I mean, you know, if you look at classical artwork, you know, David and you know, Bible stories were very common in actual classical sculpture, but nowadays it's become, I guess, less popular. There's less of a demand for these stories upon which our society is built. Hopefully that'll change. I think there's going to be a turning back to these classical stories, even for those that might not, you know, that believe that they're just kind of stories and not history. I happen to believe that these things happen, that the Bible is a historical account. Not that everything in the Bible is history. Some of it's parable. We know that from Christ. The stories that Christ would tell, sometimes some of the Bible are parables, that is, stories to tell a lesson, to teach a lesson. But I think there's going to be a turning back to these classical stories that are important. And I like the idea of doing these stories in a way that's not really whitewashed. I think that there's also a tendency to kind of censor the stories. And one thing about the Bible, especially the Old Testament, it's very real, and it deals with real people living in a very flawed time when there are serious evils that were just commonplace in the world. And now we've been able to push some of those evils to pretend that we don't have that brutality anymore of what the world used to be. But we do still have those evils and brutality. It's just in different forms. So it's not like we're better than the people way back then, even though we like to think we are, because, you know, because we say, oh, well, those people had slaves. But there's actually more slaves in the world now than there was back then. You know, with it's just underground. It's just, you know, it's just different type of slavery, underground or in places that still are okay with slavery. And they would say, oh, they had human child sacrifice back then. You know, that's what a lot of the Bible is just saying. Stop sacrificing your children to these pagan gods. That's like a lot of the story of the Bible. Just stop sacrificing your children to idols. We would say, oh, you know, we're so advanced, we don't do that anymore. But we do that. We sacrifice children. We just do it through abortion in the womb. We still have child sacrifice, human child sacrifice. Just we sacrifice those children to instead of to pagan gods, we sacrifice it to the self, or, you know, to have a better life, or to have a better job, or to have a better outcome. That's what's constantly pushed by those that would call themselves pro-choice. So I think the Bible, you know, has a lot of lessons, and the morals of the Bible are still true, even though we like to pretend we've kind of moved past those moral lessons. Biblical prophecies are being fulfilled. Yeah, I would agree with that. There are many things that the Bible said was going to happen that are happening. Yeah. Food's ready? Okay. All right, well, I'm going to wrap up this live stream. Maybe I'll do another one a little bit later. But yeah, if you're interested in sculpting, if you'd like to come and sculpt with me in person, there's a link to find out more about the in-person workshop that's going to be in Iowa. If you'd like to come and sculpt in my home studio, that's going to be in June. If you would like to learn sculpting online, then my sculpting courses, you can find those in the link in the description for the figure sculpting course, which is a great place to start, and the portrait sculpting course, so I hope you check those out. Should be a really helpful resource to anybody interested in traditional clay sculpting. And yeah, I hope you guys can stay creative, stay productive. Hopefully I'll see you again soon in another video. Let's see, I'll give you guys a look at what the sculpture's looking like right now. So this is where we're at. Still need to finalize a little bit of the hands and feet, and then I think we're pretty close to being done. So, all right, stay creative, stay productive. See you guys around.